Trump cut funding and staff for the NWS and other agencies that monitor our weather situations, and he is the cause of the deaths of all those people.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Before we get into today's video, don't forget to like, drop your thoughts in the comments, and of course subscribe to the channel.
If you care about the Texas floods, you need to hear the news that the New York Times just broke, because we learned yesterday that the National Weather Service's forecasts were not to blame. No weather balloon launches were missed. The forecasts did predict heavy rain, and notifications of flooding were given hours in advance. The issue was that the warnings went out in the middle of the night. Someone has to get the information and act on it. Someone with a job title of, oh, I don't know, how about a warning coordination meteorologist, which is the name of one of the empty positions in the National Weather Service's San Antonio field office. Why is it vacant, you might ask? This position, which, and I quote, is meant to work with local emergency managers to plan for floods, including when and how to warn local residents and help them evacuate. This position has been vacant since April 30th because the person who was in that job took Trump's early retirement package. Now, that's the San Antonio office, which covers a much larger downstream area from where the major flooding occurred. San Angelo office, which covers Kerr County, was missing a senior hydrologist, staff forecaster, and meteorologist in charge. Overall, between the two offices covering the flood area, the job vacancy rate is double what it was when Trump took office. This all points at a much larger issue that Trump and his MAGA cult just do not understand. Yes, it is annoying that we live in a world with frustrating, unpredictable problems. And yes, it is expensive to deal with those frustrating and unpredictable problems. But it's the reality we live in, even if it's a reality that Trump is incapable of facing. Because what we're seeing right now is the consequence of his ignorant, naive fantasy, where he can fix everything faster than anyone else, where he can make everything better than anyone else, and where he can do everything cheaper than anyone else. And the best news is, it only takes 2 weeks. Sorry, America, but that's con man shit. And 75 million Americans played the role of the mark perfectly.
Imagine watching Donald Trump and his administration defund the weather service, right? Imagine that. Imagine just making all these cuts to people whose job is to monitor the weather, monitor changes in the weather, giving us updated and alerts and things of that nature. To then turn around and watch Texas have a pretty significant flood, right? In which some people have lost their lives. For you to get on television and to blame said weather service has to be the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. Blame the president. Blame his administration. And the fun part about this is it's going to happen again and again and again. Good luck with FEMA too. Like, good luck with all these different services that help you during these crises. It's going to be up to your state. And if you in some place like, I don't know, Alabama or something like that, a hurricane hits Alabama, you out of luck. Okay, so
by now everybody has seen what's happening in Texas, the flooding, especially in Kerr County. I wanted to make this video because I'm the type of motherfucker that likes to hold people accountable. All right. Texas was not prepared for this flood. And now I get it. Natural disasters happen, right? But what do we have in place to try and mitigate the disaster, mitigate lives lost, right? Mitigate the damage, right? What do we have in place? Well, we have programs in place and set up that are supposed to aid in these certain situations, right? So Trump takes office January 2025. What does he do? He creates Doge, spearheaded by Elon Musk. What's their mission? Oh, their mission is to root out fraud, waste, and abuse in the federal government. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, we do that by making unnecessary cuts in these programs without proving that it's fraud, waste, and abuse. Well, we're going to make cuts, right? So what are some of these programs that they cut? Well, one of them is the National Weather Service. Okay, well, what do? They provide weather forecasts, storm warnings, and flood predictions. That doesn't seem like a necessity. That doesn't seem like it's important. Okay, what else? What other cuts did they make? They made cuts to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Well, what do? They oversee NWS. They conduct climate and storm research, and they improve flood predictions. Who needs that? What other cuts did they make? Oh, they made cuts to the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. You don't know what FEMA does? Well, they coordinate disaster response. They provide aid and fund flood mitigation. So, because of these cuts, Texas now has weakened flood predictions, limited storm tracking, slow disaster response, underfunded infrastructure, strained local resources, and Governor Abbott redirected FEMA flood mitigation funds to border security. So now those funds that were supposed to be for FEMA flood mitigation it was used for border security, and now they have no means to provide aid or do anything. And now you're requesting aid from Trump. What do we think he's going to do? We think he's going to approve this shit, or what do you think he's going to do? Or responsibilities on the state, right? As a human being, you cannot help but empathize with these people and feel terrible that this shit is happening to these people. They are losing their homes, their valuables, and some of them are losing their lives. And it's fucking heartbreaking. Right? And I'm going to say this, and it is what it is. If you are a Trump supporter, if you are MAGA, and you are there, and you are going through this, I want you to hear me, okay? You voted for this chaos. You championed it. You cheered it on, right? So because you voted for this chaos, you are now getting the day that you deserve. Everyone else, I hope you are safe. I hope your loved ones are safe. Do not try to save your valuables. It's materialistic shit. I know it's hard to hear that, but it is. Materialistic things can be replaced. You cannot. Stay safe any way that you can.
I've talked about how cuts to the National Weather Service are going to kill people, and it's already doing it. A horrific flash flood hit Kerr County, Texas yesterday. There are still more than 20 children missing, in addition to the 200 evacuations and rescues. This was warned about for months, though. The amount of rain that was forecast by the National Weather Service was about 3 to 6 inches, depending on where you looked. 10 inches of rain fell when the forecast was somewhere around 3 to 6. Still, the Weather Service did put advisories out 12 hours in advance. And yet, here are Texas officials blaming the National Weather Service for this.
As a meteorology, you can go back and look at your own forecast, and the amount of rain that fell in this specific location was never in any of those forecasts.
The absolutely asinine firings of hundreds of thousands of federal workers has included NOAA and NWS officials. As we speak, there are dozens of National Weather Service field offices that don't have a chief meteorologist, and there are a couple of offices that can't launch fucking balloons they use to take measurements in the atmosphere every day. The cuts are disastrous to public safety and set us back decades. But this is the old adage of Republicans cutting something, pointing to the fact that it is no longer working because it is so short-staffed and so underfunded as an excuse to cut it more and redirect the funds elsewhere, namely to tax cuts for the wealthy. Because that's the end of the game, right? That's what they want. They love giving their rich buddies more money, especially when it hurts us in the process. That's their favorite. This is going to get worse as hurricane season moves along. Because now we're talking about the sunsetting and winding down of the Hurricane Hunter aircraft that fly into hurricanes and give us pretty accurate real-time measurements. We've also lost a lot of climate data. So, buckle the fuck up. This is the stripping of public services that fascism brings.
So let's get this straight, guys. For months, meteorologists, experts, and media outlets warned that Donald Trump's budget cuts to the National Weather Service were reckless, and that slashing funding and gutting staff would directly hurt their ability to predict severe storms, that it would put lives in danger. And now, right on cue, a deadly flood hits Texas, and state officials are turning around and blaming the Weather Service for inaccurate forecast. I mean, are you fucking kidding me? This is what happens when you hollow out public safety in the name of politics and cruelty. The NWS isn't some luxury. It's not a partisan tool. It's the reason families get warnings in time. It's the reason people evacuate. It's the reason kids make it home from school before the storm hits. But McDonald Trump's second term has made it crystal clear. If a program protects people and saves lives but doesn't align with his agenda or help his image, he'll gut it, no matter who it hurts. And then, when disaster strikes, just like the experts said it would, they blame the very people that they've undercut. It's scapegoating at its most cowardly. This flood was tragic, but it wasn't just a freak accident of nature, guys. It was a failure of leadership, a predictable consequence of dismantling the very systems designed to keep us safe. If you're more concerned with scoring political points than funding the people who literally track deadly storms for a living, then you are the danger to public safety.
Breaking news. I want to call out Secretary Kristi Noem and Donald Trump for the statement she made about the Texas flooding. She said today that she was asked by one of the reporters, why was the National Weather Service not pinging phones before 7, and was it a fundamental failure of the federal government? And so she tries to play it off, well, it's a technology issue. She said that currently that Donald Trump is upgrading the technology of the National Weather Service because it has been left in place by the government for many years. Okay, let's get to some facts. They want to play everything off as it's the fault of technology. Well, let's go back to Trump's first administration. From 2017 to 2018, they cut about 20% of the National Weather Service positions for the National Weather Service forecasters, number one. Number two, under Doge in February 27 of 2025, they let another 880 senior NOAA, National Oceanographic Administration, Atmospheric Administration officials were fired. They fired another 108 probationary positions directly at the National Weather Service, and another 500 senior staff left with the early retirement reduction option. And furthermore, they have recommended in cutting funding for pretty much all the programs across the board from the National Weather Service, National Oceanographic Atmospheric Administration, for equipment, for research, for you name it. And so, again, I would argue that it's not just equipment. Sure, better equipment is always great. I would say it's due to a lack of staffing to operate the equipment, to make the call, to be able to prepare the equipment, and to make sure that these notifications were sent out. They, like most places, they don't have the people. If you've seen, I believe it's Morales here of NBC6, who's been in South Florida for 30 some years, has called out Trump for cutting the National Hurricane Center, the National Oceanographic Atmospheric Administration, for the cuts that they've hurting them now with being able to forecast hurricanes accurately, all because of this. And that's the problem. They don't have the manpower. And this all goes back to Trump, goes back to Noem, goes back to everybody that's responsible for doing this, including Elon Musk. So there you have the reason why. They don't have the people to do it. It's plain and simple. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this one out. Love to hear from my Texans, my Democrats, my MAGAs, my crazies, and my cuckoos. And pray for everybody that's in Texas, for those of us that are heartbroken as to what has happened. But again, this is the fault of the Trump administration, I would argue, by them cutting the staffing positions so they don't have the people to make the manpower to do what they need to do. That's where the fault lays. You know, facts are the facts. You cut the people. They're not there. The people aren't there to make the calls. They're there to let everybody know what's going on. Donald Trump, you did it. There you have it.
While Donald Trump was busy taking a victory lap as he signed legislation into law that is actually going to hurt more people than it will help, over 25 Texas citizens lost their lives in a flash flood in New Braunfels, Texas. Now, I know a lot of you are going to say, well, how can you blame Trump for that? Well, we can start with the fact that his administration fired over 850 NOAA employees, the agency responsible for the National Weather Service. Officials in New Braunfels are admitting that their actual flood warning system didn't do its job. All I can say is you don't cut funding to weather, especially in areas where you know you're going to have tornadoes and floods. At the very minimum, this president is incredibly incompetent.
We have never in our lives seen so much devastation in this manner. That flooding, I took a day off to be with my family, had a great day. I'm unplugging, so logged back in and seeing what all happened on July 4th. And my God, may God bless them babies. May God bless everybody. May God bless the homeless people that no one knows that they're missing and that they're alive. No one checks on them, who's walking the streets, and that flash flooding happened in seconds. We have to get Trump out of office. I don't care what nobody says. Every single time this man does something, I just made a video about this from what happened in Las Vegas. Every time he does something that impacts people, something catastrophic happens on a mass level. The flooding, oh my gosh. It's not even hurricane season yet. May God bless us all.
Sitting here looking at CNN, and the governors on there praising the Trump administration for his swift action in helping them save a disaster that Trump himself caused. Now, does that make sense? Trump cut funding and staff for the NWS and other agencies that monitor our weather situations, and he is the cause of the deaths of all those people. And the governor have a nerve to sit there and make a point, just go above and beyond to praise this man for killing their people. And I'll say it's their people because it is. Now, how crazy is that? I'm so glad, thank God, we're sane and not so stupid.
Donald Trump is responsible for many of the lives lost in Texas during the tragic floods this weekend. Let's make this clear. As a president, Donald Trump and Elon Musk made a choice to go against science, to go against experts, to cut money on the National Weather Service, to go against scientific experts. And when you do that, that has consequences. And we're seeing it this weekend with the lives lost in Texas. Donald Trump made a choice that he'd rather be able to give more money back to billionaires, even if it meant that lives would be lost because warnings were inadequate. And those warnings could have saved lives. When Joe Biden was the president, you heard MAGA always crying that Joe Biden didn't give enough because Joe Biden was only giving the $750 he was allotted to give by Congress. Joe Biden cared. Joe Biden would have been there. He wouldn't have cut funding from things that could have saved lives. This is who Donald Trump is, and it's going to happen so much more. Maybe it's not a good idea to defund FEMA. Maybe when emergencies happen, people need help. We are going to see this all throughout the summer as hurricane season rages, and the irony of it is it's going to be Trump's Republican voters in the South that get hurt the absolute worst. And that's what it is. Throw me a follow.
The Republicans are pointing at the National Weather Service, blaming them for all of this. But let's be honest, if Trump didn't slash their funding, all of this wouldn't have happened. So let me know what you think in the comment section, and don't forget to like, share this video, and subscribe to the channel. I will see you in the next one.